The following broadcast is intended solely for people of 18 years of age or more. We are not told what we can and cannot broadcast. Because of this, the show may contain themes and subjects such as violence, sex, money, conspiracy, and religion that may be deemed as unsuitable for the ears of those under adult age. If you wish to disagree or pass comment on anything mentioned in this show, please ring our line on 0845 688 1052. The show begins at 10 p.m. and ends at 1 a.m. Tardiness will not be tolerated. The show will remain loyal to those that remain loyal to it.
Come and join us round the apple tree.
Oh, the bloody hell are we? Alrighty then, this is it, the big show, live to the nation. Hello, my name's Nick Margerrison, thanks for tuning in. Sunday night's version of The Night Before is right before you as we speak. On tonight's show, what we're going to be doing is this. We're going to be talking to some of the most incredible people from around the world, including a bloke who will be exposing the truth behind why cannabis is illegal. Yes, the hemp conspiracy. Doug Yurchey will be joining us very soon, about 20 minutes from now, and he will expose the true story behind cannabis being made illegal. Also on tonight's show, was Jesus an Egyptian spellcaster who indulged in nocturnal secret initiation ceremonies with young boys? Lynn, Picknett and Clive will be telling us all as we go into the true story behind the raising of Lazarus. They'll be on the show just after 11. Also on tonight's show, Paul Marks joins us and gives us the latest military technology which has been designed to blow our nation's enemies to kingdom come. All of that, and of course you on tonight's show. What do you mean, Nick? That doesn't make any sense. I'll tell you, you call the show 0845 688 1052 and you will arrive on the airwaves where you'll be able to entertain, inform and educate the nation. Yeah, 0845 688 1052. That's my phone number. Various subjects on tonight's show, including would you agree to having a drugs test if you wanted to get into a pub or a club? And is James Bond just rubbish? Or am I completely wrong? I can't stand James Bond. I think it's the worst film franchise in the world.
The Night Before with Nick Margerrison!
Podcast! Kerrang is The Night Before. How the bloody hell are we?
Sexy Sundays.
Alone? With the lights dim?
Absolutely.
Man does what he must.
All over your face.
Yeah, that's right. This is it, the big show, live to the nation. Hello, my name's Nick Margerrison. Thanks for tuning in. A lot of things to get through tonight. Very busy show indeed. Phone lines are wide open. 0845 688 1052. Lining up calls for the first phone-in chunk, which comes up at 11 o'clock. 0845 688 1052. That's the number. You can beat the queue now. If you call the show, we'll line you up and get you on in front of the entire nation. You can spew forth words, thoughts and ideas and educate the minds of every single person listening at the moment. That's what we're going to do on tonight's show. 0845 688 1052. Am I the only one who hates James Bond? Amy Jones, do you like James Bond?
Love it. Love it.
Why?
Because it's fun. It's like an action film. It's fun. It's got sexy men in it. It's got sexy women in it.
Sexist.
You like it, enjoying it.
It is sexist.
No, it's not sexist.
Well, it is, obviously. Women are sex objects in it, and...
But women make him a sex object as well.
No, they don't, not really. Listen, I don't... Alex Baker, are you also of the opinion that James Bond's brilliant?
Yes. I love it. It's great.
Night Before listener, are you also of the opinion that James Bond is brilliant? Oh, it's great, that film, isn't it? Oh, I like that. I really like that. Listen, I appreciate that the British Brainwashing Corporation frequently broadcasts long adverts telling you to think that this is a great film. I get that. I mean, do you know what? Amazing, really. On the 31st of October, just gone, James Bond Day on one of their national stations. Brilliant. New film coming out, let's promote it. James Bond Day. Hey, isn't James Bond amazing? I don't understand. So obviously, you know, I appreciate a lot of people listening have been conditioned and programmed to think that James Bond is good, right? But it's not. And I don't understand why people fall for it. As far as I'm concerned, it's a stupid fantasy film for inadequate blokes to sit round going, oh, isn't it great? I'd love to be James Bond, me. Then I can have a nice car, cool clothes. I could, have sex with women. I can beat people up. I can have gadgets. Isn't that great? Isn't that exciting? None of those things excite me. But am I alone? I may be entirely alone. I may be the only person on this frequency who is of this opinion. 0845 688 1052 is the phone number. Call the show with your thoughts. Am I the only person, the sole voice? I feel like
I think you've got to be. I can't believe you've...
Yeah.
Is there not one James Bond film
years
you
of conditioning and programming means that the entire nation thinks James Bond's great.
No, I like
that.
James Bond because it's a good
Because
film
you've
and
been
I
told
enjoy
to.
it. No, I'm not being
because you've been told to. That is why. That's what it is. I've told you, by the BBC run adverts for it all the time.
Yeah, I haven't been told to like it. I watched it and I enjoyed it. I do make my own opinion about things, you know.
Do you know it's not even... have you read the original books?
I haven't read the original books, no.
Because the original James Bond character, totally different character.
Was he?
Yeah, totally different character.
How
Do you know any of that?
How is he a different character?
Well, for example, there's loads of examples. One of the examples, which I think is quite telling, is the original James Bond character had really bad halitosis, really bad breath.
No, he didn't.
No, he did. He had really bad breath.
Are you just saying this because you don't like James Bond?
No, this is in the original book. He had bad breath, a really terrible case of bad breath, and a small penis. Because it's a family film.
You're making that up.
No, it's true. The books are quite deep, actually. And in it, he behaves like he does because he has a small penis. That's true. That's a true thing.
Are you pulling my chain?
I was joking about this before, but no, it's true that, anyone who's read the book can back me up on this. 0845 688 1052. If you've read the book, you can call the show and back me up on this. The original character, very small penis, that's why he treats women in the way he does. That's why he behaves in the way he does. That's why he can't keep a girlfriend. You notice he only ever has sex with a woman once, and they don't...
What, is that why?
Yeah, it's because he's got such an inadequate penis that they'd always go, this is rubbish sex, I'm going to... and so that you're supposed to feel sympathy for him, but they took all this out of the... Yeah, it's true. Not only that, but he has a really rubbish high-pitched voice. He talks... I'm James Bond. That's how he really talks.
No, it doesn't. How did you know that?
No, in
from
the
book?
original book, because it describes it.
No, it
It's
doesn't.
only one sentence. It just
I don't
says...
believe you.
James Bond had a big fat arse. Did you know
you're
that?
just making
it's
it
true.
up.
In the book, in the original book, he says he has a big fat arse.
You're just bitter because you're not James Bond.
And apparently he's the sort of bloke who always agrees with people as well. Those sort of people who, no matter what's happening, you're sat in a pub, you're chatting away, you're having a conversation about stuff, and he just agrees with whoever's talking the loudest. He just goes, yeah, that's what I think as well. Has none of his own opinions.
You're just saying this because
it's true. In the original, and he's got rubbish hair.
No, he hasn't. James Bond would not have rubbish hair.
No, in the original book, he has rubbish hair. His hair's just a mess. It's embarrassing. His hair's just really horrible. And he picks his nose and eats it in front of people.
Lies, Nick. Lies.
This
Did your mother never teach you that lies send you to bad places?
This is all true. This is all from the original book. If you've read the original book, back me up on this.
Correct.
The Night Before with Nick Margerrison.
It's The Night Before. Hello, my name's Nick Margerrison. Thanks for tuning in. Good to have you along. Do you know what? Already people responding to my call for a few more facts on the original character of James Bond. This only applies if you're one of the few people who've read the original books, which, are quite boring, but they do reveal a lot of things about, what's going off with the real James Bond. We've got one here, this is from Darren. Nick, you're right to point this out. James Bond in the original books is rubbish at parallel parking. He's really bad. And what happens is when he does it badly, he'll bump his car and then he'll start swearing and he'll get out of his car and he'll try and blame everybody else but himself. He's a pathetic man. Got another one here saying James Bond is actually from France and his real name is Jimmy. That's absolutely right. Not signed, that email, though. Listen, 0845 688 1052. Call the show if you've read the original James Bond books and you want to actually just expose the truth as to what that guy is really like in the original books. Also, another habit that James Bond has is he'll scratch his hair, right, really aggressively, and loads of fluff will come out of it onto his food, and then he'll start eating his food, and everyone will be, they'll be too embarrassed to... No, that's true. They'll be too embarrassed to mention it to him. And that's what he's like. He never buys a drink, ever, in the books. He never, ever will buy anyone a drink. And he's really shady about it as well. What he'll do is he'll just nip off to the toilets when it's his round, can't be bothered. He'll nip off to the toilet and he'll come back. Hey, dudes, where's my drink? He's an arse. He really is. Anyway, listen, 0845 688 1052. That's my phone number. Look forward to talking to you soon. Thursday's show, we took this call.
Obviously, innocent till proven guilty, but they're not going to arrest anybody on the basis of nothing, are they? They're obviously going to have some sort of reason to arrest somebody. If they need time to investigate, then that's what they should do.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say that the police can arrest somebody and then let them go 2 days later because they didn't have the time to investigate the crime.
Right.
And then say that person goes out and commits another crime, then they'll be done for letting them go.
You know what? We had an enormous response to that call on the email.
UK Tram Corps.
Tramp Corps?
Tram Corps, that's what it's all about, UK Tram Corps.
And what does that mean?
Well, it means whatever you want it to be, but usually it's because we're all poor.
I've yet to hear any Tramp Corps music whatsoever, but I did enjoy that call. And also, we talked to this guy. This guy, Russell Brand.
We're making you famous because you're on radio.
Yeah, but
we're paying your wages because you're famous.
Yeah, you're not paying my wages, William. You've never paid my wages in your life.
Oh, haven't I? You don't know who I am.
You don't pay my wages.
Oh, well, I have heard that before.
A lot of people get confused. Kerrang's self-funding, you know. We don't charge you a penny for this service. Okay, 0845 688 1052. That's my phone number. You call the show, me and you talk about life, the universe, and everything. This is an unbelievable story here. Amy Jones, right? You go out clubbing and that, don't you? You do all that.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, I did that for the first time. I hate.
You did
clubbing.
it on Friday, didn't you?
It doesn't work for me at all. I find it so boring. I can never hear anyone.
You're so funny.
I can never hear what anyone's saying.
I walked up to you and started having a conversation with you, and everything I said, you went, yeah.
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 It's because I didn't know what you were saying.
And then I was like, I did like my little finger point. I'm going to go over there now. And you went, see you later.
I hate
Bye.
it. I don't like it at all. But answer me this, Amy Jones. If you went to a club or a pub that had a machine that would test whether or not you'd done drugs, would you go into that club? Would you support that club? If the police were sat there and they got a little machine and all you do is you wipe your hands on it and then within a few seconds they're called itemizers, right? And they pick up traces of drugs from hand swabs in a few seconds. Voluntary test, but if you refuse to use them, then the pub or club, whichever they're outside, you're not allowed in. Right, now these things are being used in Scotland at the moment. They've been cleared for use there. They've been trialled in parts of England. They can tell almost instantly if drugs are present, including cocaine, cannabis, heroin, ecstasy. It's like the sweat glands in your finger. Remember, things like cannabis stay in your system for a long, long time. And there's 3 different responses you will get, either green, amber or red. If it goes green, you're allowed in the club. If it goes amber, you get a leaflet about drugs and stuff like that and get told to chuff off. And if it goes red, they'll search you and arrest you. And,
You're joking.
No, they give you a good searching and...
oh my God. I don't know, because I'd quite like to go to a club where no one is on drugs. I would quite like that. And obviously this is what's going to happen with these machines. But... That's not nice. That's a complete invasion of someone's privacy. Imagine, if you'd taken some drugs or whatever, you'd been stupid and taken some drugs, and you're just exposed in front of everyone for I think it's wrong.
But they're breaking the law, the people doing the drugs.
Yeah, but...
What do you think about? I mean, would you support a club that had one of these machines outside it? This is a police-backed scheme. Senior producer Alex, what about yourself?
I think it's a great idea.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Why?
genuinely. Well, because people shouldn't be taking drugs, and if they want to take drugs, they can take drugs in the privacy of their own home.
Yeah.
I don't want to be surrounded by drunk junkies and cokeheads and people being mashed off their face on drugs.
Do you not think it's a bit of an invasion of people's privacy?
I don't care if it's an invasion of people. It's an invasion of my personal space, having some gurner coming up to me going, "Are you high? I'm so high." No, I'm not high. Leave me alone. I'm trying to have a good time with my mates. I don't need you in my face. Do you know what I mean?
What about outside a pub then?
Same deal, man. I mean, drugs, people fueled up on coke and drinking.
It's going to get to the point where you can't go anywhere without getting searched and tested for something or other.
I'm all for it, man.
Where's the line with this?
Kerrang Radio.
The Night Before with Nick Margerrison.
With us we have Doug Yurchey. He is here to talk to us about the conspiracy theory that lies behind cannabis being illegal. Doug, thanks for joining us on the show.
Oh, great. Thank you for having me.
Why is cannabis illegal?
I'll tell you, like a lot of people will call it marijuana. and I'm not going to do that. It's really hemp. It was always called hemp.
Yeah, that's an important distinction to make, actually, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because hemp, I mean, everybody's heard of hemp, and a lot of people might not even be... They might not even know that hemp, cannabis, marijuana, this is all the same thing, but hemp was the original name for it.
William Randolph Hearst did it.
William Randolph Hearst. Who is this guy? Tell us about him.
This is one of the richest men in the world who owned timberlands, owned the newspapers. At one time in the 30s, almost all the paper products came from his Hearst company. So here comes hemp, ready to be industrialized with the new machines that were being invented. And he thought it was a threat to all his industry of timber. And in his newspapers, he started it and created that word to scare people because he knew he could never change the world and tarnish the name of hemp. So he created a monster. He created the word marijuana. You said a theory. It's not a theory about this conspiracy because I'm going to give you the references. So, okay, all school books were made from hemp or flax paper until the 1800s, and that's from Hemp Paper Reconsidered, Jack Frazier. It was legal to pay your taxes. It was legal to pay your taxes with hemp from 1631 to the 1800s, and that came from the L.A. Times, August 81. So these are all reputable sources. Refusing to grow hemp in some states during the 17th and 18th centuries was against the law. In Virginia, you could be jailed for refusing to grow hemp 1763 to 1769, and we were still under British rule at that time. And this came from the hemp in colonial Virginia from G.M. Herndon. Washington, Jefferson, other founding fathers grew hemp. Jefferson smuggled hemp seeds from China to France to the U.S., and this comes from the Washington and Jefferson diaries. So this is all pretty good. Ben Franklin had the first paper mill in America, and it processed hemp. For thousands of years, all the ship's sails and the ropes, they were made from hemp. Rembrandt, Gainsborough, Van Gogh, these early painters, painted on hemp linen because it was durable, and they wanted it to survive. The first Bibles, maps, charts, America's first flag, Betsy Ross, the first drafts of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution was made from hemp. And this is from government archives. Henry Ford's first Model T was built to run on hemp gas. Back then, look what that could do now.
Whoa, hang on, I never knew this. So what you're telling me is that cannabis itself, hemp itself, was actually used to power one of the first cars.
There's even more to it. The car itself was made from hemp plastic that was 10 times stronger than steel. This was from Popular Mechanics, 1941. There are pictures, but look with gas price. I mean, imagine what that would save the world. But the main thing is we wouldn't have to cut down all these trees.
This is, my jaws drop to the floor a minute. I can't get my head around. Part of me thinks he must be making this up. You've got a crazy pothead on the show and he's making crazy stuff up. Well, what you're telling me, right, is that the world energy crisis that we currently face could have been significantly altered had it not been the case that the anti-cannabis movement had their way, because you're saying that literally you could feed cannabis into cars and they'd drive round.
Well, see, remember, it's the hemp seed oil. Hemp seed, remember, you can just keep on, it has a very fast growing season, so you can just keep growing it, where a tree takes a lifetime to grow. So it's just, and it's killing the world. The plastics now don't disappear. They're on landfills. They're ruining our world too. Hemp plastics are biodegradable. Over a long period of time, they would be mulch sinking back. All our plastics would eventually be mulch sinking back. This is a good thing.
So you can cite all your sources with this. This is not like you haven't been researching by watching an episode of Cheech and Chong. Mm-hmm. This is real. This is actually true and actually happening. I'm trying to get my head around it. So what you're telling me is that hemp was all over the place in the past.
Before 1937, that's when it became illegal.
And then, well, there must have been some sort of massive seismic change in the way people looked at this herb. What happened?
This was all because of this powerful man who owned the newspapers and the timberlands. So it was called yellow journalism. He could not only write, he wrote lies in his paper. and said, oh, there'd be an accident. Oh, we'll blame it on marijuana. What's marijuana? People didn't know that the marijuana was hemp. The American Medical Association testified too late to Congress because they didn't know this thing they were reading about this menace of marijuana, was hemp, because he could never change that good name of hemp. He had to create this monster of marijuana.
So this guy, he owns printing presses and a newspaper company, and he starts banging on about a drug called marijuana. No one knows what he's talking about, and he's saying it's a terrible drug, we need to ban it, and what he's actually talking about is hemp.
Yeah, and he rushed it through Congress. So this has all been a terrible plot by the rich people like Hearst, and they have ruined the world. Food products can be made from hemp to cure the starving.
But Doug,
medicine.
hang on a minute. Why would this... What drove him on?
Well, he wouldn't have his billions of dollars then. He owned all the paper. This would be these new machines coming in, processing this plant, which quickly grows. We never had to cut down any more trees. And if we did do that way, the planet wouldn't be this global warming problem now.
So hang on. So did he owned forests, and he owned...
So he made newspapers.
Gotcha. So he made paper out of wood, right? And then there was hemp paper, and he wanted to continue making paper out of wood. He wanted to use his forests, and that's where it all came from, this hatred.
Yeah, and I'm watching the new that Live Earth, that concert to save the environment, and I go, you watch. There won't be one word about hemp. We're getting these concerts, this music from everywhere, these commercials saying how to save the planet, and I'm sure there were booths set up in some countries about hemp and everything, but I knew the television cameras would give it no air. Great products can be made, but we're never going to see them on television.
We'll see what the nation thinks. You know what? I've enjoyed talking to you, Doug Yurchey.
I'd like to give out my email address for any. I'd answer any questions. Dougco, DUGKO, at surfside.net. And I have a website, Yurchey.com, YURCHEY.com. I can send people information.
Cool.
Or whatever they want, answer their questions, whatever they want. There's a lot of information on my website.
Yurchey.com. Listen, I want to thank you for joining us. You're a friend of the show. I don't know that I entirely agree with everything you've said, but I want to thank you for coming on the show and saying it.
Thank you so much for having me.
The night before.
Hello, my name's Nick Margerrison. Time for the fully interactive news they didn't use.
And now, it's time for the news they didn't use.
Yeah, that's right. It's time for some news that they didn't use, and that means the entire nation turns its attention towards Amy Jones, because she's plucked a cheeky little story out of the sweaty bottom of the Kerrang Radio newsroom bin. Take it away, Amy Jones.
A man has been found superglued to a toilet seat. A man had to be taken to hospital, still attached to a toilet seat after being superglued, and after superglue had been deliberately smeared onto the seat by someone.
Oh no,
Yeah.
It was wackiness.
Yeah, the firefighters were unable to free the man and were forced to remove the entire toilet with the man attached and put him in the ambulance.
Oh God!
It is thought that the glue had been smeared by some wacky prankster.
Yeah, it was wackiness.
And it actually says wacky prankster.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Wackiness. Bloody wackiness. Okay, so now time to laugh at this poor man's misfortune with the use of some hilarious jokes. 64100k at the front of your text if you want to provide a joke. I'm going to say I think that bloke found that to be a bit of a pain in the ass.
Oh,
because,
yeah.
It does involve his ass. Yeah.
I haven't got a clue how that happened. A glue, sorry.
Oh, there you go. You see, you haven't got a glue. That's good. I think these jokes are going to hit rock bottom.
Yeah,
because it does involve
that
bottom.
one.
That was a super glue joke.
A super glue joke.
Are you going to go?
Yeah,
you're going
that's
with
not
glue
bad.
jokes, and you're going with bottom jokes.
I think that it's a sticky situation. Zictamini sent that one in on the text.
Facts.
Oh.
That's what happened there.
Sticky situation's quite good, actually.
I bet when he realised what had happened, he was glueless as to how he got into that predicament from Sam in Bromyard.
Two jokes in one sentence.
Tom said that left him down in the dumps.
Yeah.
Which is like a poo is a dump.
Tasteless.
Chris and Carly have both texted in at the same time with the same joke. I bet he was in a sticky situation.
Fact.
That is good.
I think it's a Bostic story.
What?
Is it like Boston? Like means like well good, yeah. Get me. And Bostic is like a type of glue. So just like
is it a type of glue?
PVA. Well, I don't know if it is PVA.
That's a really bad joke there, Alex.
The Night Before with Nick Margerrison.
That's right, this is it, the big show, live to the nation. Hello, my name's Nick Margerrison. Thanks for tuning in. Here's my plan. We're going to take some calls now. 0845 688 1052. This is the bit of the show that confuses the most people, because it's the bit where, you know, we just talk about things, and that's what happens. If you want to be part of it, 0845 688 1052. That's my phone number. We'll line you up either in this phone in chunk or in the next. Let me just remind you of the subjects. One subject that I've suggested is I hate the Bond films. I really hate them. I think they're rubbish. I just don't like them at all. I've never understood the attraction of James Bond. And earlier on, I remembered that I've actually read all the original books, and I've been explaining some of the characteristics of the original James Bond, the actual original one inside the books there, from memory. That, you know, I mean, I've read all of the original books, and let me just have a quick look. Some of the characteristics that we've gone through already. He's rubbish at parallel parking in the original books. He has a very small penis. He suffers from terrible halitosis. Also, another thing that I remember about the original character is he has terminal flatulence. He's got a terrible case of terminal flatulence, and he's farting all over the place all the time. And it's really interesting because in the original books, you know, they deal with the ins and outs of suffering from something like that, which is, do you know what, Darwin? Amy Jones, did you realise Darwin had terminal flatulence as well? It's a genuine medical condition, yeah, and they go into all of that in the original James Bond films. Now that you come
to mention it, I think I have read these books. It's really? The originals, because isn't he really clumsy as well in it?
That's right. Yeah, no,
he's quite clumsy, and he always reads the instructions of everything that he's given, because he's really like a technophobe.
He's a very clumsy character. Yeah, definitely very clumsy character in all of the books. And yeah, one of the things about instruction booklets is, you're right, he reads instruction booklets for fun. So he'll turn up to maybe like a gadget shop or something, and he'll say, I don't want the gadgets, because that's another thing, he hates gadgets. He hates gadgets, and he'll just go, give me all your instruction booklets, I just want to read them. And he'll go off and he'll just sit there whiling away the hours reading instruction booklets.
Doesn't he have a really goofy laugh as well? I remember reading it because it said something like he's snorting when he laughs, doesn't he? It's kind of a...
Yeah, he's really embarrassing. He's one of those people, you know, where no matter where you are with him, you know, he'll just do this laugh, and it's like, whoa, what are you doing, man? Yeah. It's very strange.
Hardcore.
Very strange guy. Very politically correct as well. Annoyingly so. He'll correct people all the time. He has ginger hair in the original books. They haven't kept that up. He has a massive ginger afro.
Wasn't it? Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't it an afro? It wasn't.
Very. I mean, you know, if you have read the original books, you can remember any of those characteristics. 0845 688 1052, and we can just, you know, educate the nation on the original character. Right, let's take a few calls. Let's see what's happening. And first off, let's talk to Kieran in Ledbury. Kieran is calling in on the subject of cannabis, the hemp conspiracy, the guest we had on earlier on, and one of the other subjects that we're talking about. 0845 688 1052 is the number. Kieran in Ledbury, you're on Kerrang. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Nick. Nice to talk to you.
Hey, good to talk to you as well. What do you got to tell us?
Well, it's just the issue of hemp, really. I mean, I knew it was a very interesting subject. I knew some of the history of it anyway. A lot of people, you know, hear these kind of things. But what it makes me think of is just, I suppose, in one sense, for a start, you could compare it to alcohol, and you think, well, imagine if you turned it on its head and think, well, if the alcohol had all those other parameters of use as well. Because to me, it throws up almost like a moral dilemma, because you know, you take away using that thing for fun and think of all the other things you could be using it for.
Yeah.
I think it comes up. I think it creates a lot of questions. You know.
Well, I mean, the thing is I don't have a problem with people, you know, smoking cannabis for fun if they want to. I mean, it's their own life, and it gives you cancer and it sends you mad. I mean, those are two things that it does, right? So if you want to take the risk for a good time, then good luck to you. You know, I mean, I've never criticised anybody too harshly for doing these kind of things, like you know, I don't know, like rock climbing, for example, right? That's dangerous. I mean, should we make that illegal? It's dangerous.
No.
Horse riding, dangerous again. I mean, you know, we shouldn't get in the way. If people want to hurt themselves, then, you know, good luck to them. See you later.
I'm thinking more on a level of, you know, imagine how we could change the economy of how it could be used for.
Yeah, well, I've never heard the idea of fueling cars with it.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it's kind of like people talking about putting vegetable oil in instead of petrol in cars. You know, you imagine a world where these things were being used like that, and you start, you can think on a conspiracy level of is somebody, people suppressing.
Well, I think there is. I mean, if you want to talk conspiracy theories, when you actually look into the history of cannabis, there's definitely conspirators, and there's definitely people behind the scenes who had reasons other than the ones they were putting forward to try and make cannabis illegal. But I'd never heard any of that stuff, Kieran. I mean, what we do is we get the guests on, they do their stuff, and then we're a little bit open. I've never heard the idea that you can fuel cars with cannabis. That was news to me.
No, well, I wouldn't know about using that kind of oil for cars, but I've heard people saying, vegetable oil.
Yeah, I know Cheech and Chong. Have you ever seen Cheech and Chong? They make a big van out of cannabis. But that's not a documentary, is it? That's a comedy film, right?
No, that's much more off the wall.
Yeah.
No, I'm just interested in the fact of, whether something's illegal or not. I mean, alcohol is accepted use, everybody drinks it, but I don't know whether there's those other types of use for alcohol. I mean, maybe you could run a rocket on alcohol or something, but it just intrigues me because that guy came up with even more uses than I even knew about, and I thought...
I reckon probably Sambuca will power a car.
Sambuca? I should imagine so.
Kieran, good call. Thanks for calling the show. Kieran in Ledbury. Dangers of drink. I had one of those weekends where we cracked open the Sambuca this weekend. So if I'm sounding a little bit worse for wear, that's what it is. Alcohol's bad. Right, let's take another call and let's talk to Fifi in Edinburgh. Fifi, you're on Kerrang. Welcome to the show. Same subject, I think, on the subject of cannabis. What you got to tell us?
Right. See that whole thing with hemp? I have been arguing that point for years, right?
How many years?
That hemp used, since I was 15, I think.
Right, how old are you now?
19.
19, so that'd be 4 years.
So it is years, right?
Okay, so 4 years you've been saying exactly what he was saying.
Yes, and all the different uses and everything that hemp used to have before the whole thing about them wanting to have more money and all of this stuff, blah, blah, blah.
Do you know what's happened? He's heard you talking about it somewhere.
Yeah,
He's cribbed your
everyone always
notes.
told me I was lying, and I hated it, right? I mean, I could talk to a stoner and I'd tell them all the stuff that was good about hemp, and all they do is nod and agree, as if kind of like, yes, we know this, shut up. But you talk to someone who's against it, and then they just sit there going, you're lying, that's not true. And I go, I'm not. I swear I'm not lying. And it's not about promoting smoking or, being stoned or anything like that. It's promoting the uses of hemp, the actual plant.
Well, if you get to the root of most of the weirdest things in life, then, there's usually some sort of someone somewhere pulling strings, like religion, for example. That doesn't really add up. And when you look into it, you go, oh, hang on a minute. It's people just controlling other people and making them do what they want. And a good example of that will be soon when we get Lynn, Picknett and Clive Prince on the airwaves as one of the next interviews they're doing with us, where they will be talking about whether or not Jesus was an Egyptian spellcaster who indulged in nocturnal secret initiation ceremonies with young boys. Right, so religion, you'd start pulling away and you end up going off down the rabbit hole, right? The drugs, same thing. You follow it. You go, why are these things illegal? Why are some drugs legal and others illegal? You start following that trail and you always bump into some weird guy who wants to control people.
Yeah. Well, I think, it kind of goes down every single alleyway. But, right, I have a completely other point about your other little thing, the whole James Bond thing, right?
Have you read the original books?
No, I've never watched any of the movies or read any of the books. I've watched a little bit of one of the movies and thought it was complete rubbish and have refused to watch any of them.
Well, in the original books, do you know in the original books?
But hold on, wait. There's all of the
he never flushes the toilet.
Everything that you were, ew.
In the original books, he goes to the toilet and he never flushes the toilet.
But why is he made out to be a ladies' man? Because everything that you listed was something that every single thing you listed would be absolutely everything that I would despise in a man.
Well, the thing is as well is he's never had a sexual experience in the books. He always
so he's
almost
like this old geeky, farting, disgusting, ginger-haired old man.
Well, he is very old. You sound like you have read the original books.
I think I just know a lot of geeks.
Well, another thing as well is he suffers from premature ejaculation.
How would he know?
Well,
if
because
he's never had a sexual experience.
And he doesn't have a sexual experience. It's just only whenever a woman looks at him, That's it. It's game over for him. Seriously, he has to go to the toilet. He has to wash his pants and everything because he's just.
So then, going by that theory, he would never be able to step into any kind of strip club.
No, he never
or
goes in strip
anything like
clubs.
that.
No, he's very politically correct. He never goes in strip clubs. He rarely leaves the house, in fact.
Well, then how is he supposed to be all this kind of like, spy man and go and like kill
Well, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, people haven't read the original books. I mean, in the original book, he's very into bird watching, so he's a keen bird watcher. It's true. He all the time. There's whole series of books dedicated to his adventures in bird watching. But he doesn't actually leave the house. All he does is watches Bill Oddie, right? You know that Bill Oddie? What's that one called? He just watches that on video over and over again.
Why did they make movies about it and change everything then? Well, obviously they would have had to change it because doing a movie about that would just be unbelievably boring as well. But
you need to look for the dramatic angle, don't you? So it's the case with a lot of books. The film's rarely like the book. That's just how it is. Listen, Fifi, thanks for the call. Fifi in Edinburgh. I wonder how many people who are listening to the show have read the original books. I mean, if you have, you might want to enlighten people as to what James Bond's actually like in real life when the cameras are off. He's a nightmare. He really is. He does all sorts of things. What he'll do as well is he never washes his hands when he goes to the toilet. Yeah, he'll come away. He's not washed his hands. He doesn't care, and he picks at his food. He doesn't eat it with knife and fork. He picks at his food, and sometimes he'll lick his plate like an arse. All right, let's take another call. 0845 688 1052. That's my phone number. Call the show. The subject of drugs testing. Let me get you across this. This is absolutely true, and it's unbelievable. The police in Scotland are starting to use drug testing machines outside pubs and clubs, right? And they're being trialled in parts of England. They're called the Itomizer, and they pick up traces of drugs from hand swabs in a few seconds. So you wipe your hand on it, and then it'll tell you if you're a druggie or not. I think that's insane. I don't think it's a good idea either. Alex in Birmingham, your thoughts?
I think it's a good idea.
Really? On what basis?
I've worked in security for like the last six and a half years.
Yeah.
And some of the things I've seen, I've had knives pulled on me by druggies trying to nick stuff, and basically I think the country's gone off soft anyway, because these drug takers and everything, why take them in the first place? Right? You're going to commit crime anyway, and plus there's no stiff penalties for them if they get caught anyway.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. I think one of the interesting things about this. So you do door security, right? Don't tell me where.
I have done in the past.
Yeah, okay. So if that's your profession, this would put off. This would all of the druggies. Anyone who saw an Itomizer is what they're called. Anyone who's ever taken a drug in their life is going to think. Particularly cannabis. They're going to be very paranoid, and they're going to think, "Well, I'll give that place a miss," and it would sort of get a very specific type of clientele, wouldn't it? It would get. You would only get people who are into alcohol, all the sort of ecstasy people, the cocaine people, the cannabis people, the heroin addicts, all those kind of people. They would not even come anywhere near your club.
No.
But on the other hand, do you not think it's a bit unfair for people who just use drugs a little bit and happen to disagree with the laws of the land on drug use?
Why would you need to use drugs in the first place, other than those prescribed by a doctor?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Some people might prefer it.
Well, yeah, but there's other ways to do it, you know what I mean? It's if you want to get a high, why not go bungee jumping?
Bungee jumping, yeah. That's true. You certainly need to be high to do that.
Yeah, so it's like, well, you get that adrenaline buzz. So why not go and find something else to do?
But what about, there are some people who use drugs and don't particularly cause trouble. It seems a little bit mean, doesn't it, that minority just can't, go anywhere without having their disgusting drug abusing ways exposed to everybody.
But then, unfortunately, it's the minority that ruin it for the rest of them. So what do you do?
So you're all in favour of this, aren't you? I mean, I'm trying to... The thing about it is, Alex, I'm trying to get my head round why I oppose it, because you're making sense, and I'm trying to shoot you down with, the contrary argument, but I don't know that I'm doing such a good job, I think the reason I think it's wrong is because it's an invasion of, someone's personal life. If someone wants to take drugs, I don't care. I'm kind of good luck to them, see you later. Whereas you're saying that, they should definitely have all these rights infringed, and I don't know what the contrary argument is. I really don't. I think you're right and I'm wrong.
I mean, the thing is, though, right, if you go out and take drugs, or if I go out and work in a club now, right, you take drugs, you pull a knife on me, what about my rights?
But that's kind of different, isn't it? I mean, someone who pulls a knife on you might not necessarily do drugs. They might just be drunk or violent.
Well, no, but from talking to several colleagues who have worked doors for quite a while and quite a long time, they tend to be very high, shall we say, worse for wear. And it's like, you can't deal with them. At least with a drunk, you might be able to talk them down. But you can't do that with a druggie. Yeah.
Yeah, if they're on crack or something like that, then they're not rational.
No. At least if a drunk, you can, if they're going to be sick, you can get them to the toilet.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. At least if they're drunk, you can do something with them. If they're high, what can you do?
And you can't... It's very hard to predict someone who's drugged up, isn't it? I mean, we all know what someone who's drunk's going to do vaguely. We all know whereabouts they are and what they're doing. Whereas, a druggie, very difficult to predict. Yeah. Alex, I think you're probably right and I'm probably wrong, but you haven't changed my mind yet. Listen, good call. Thanks for calling the show. Alex in Birmingham, 0845 688 1052. Something about this just seems a little bit wrong. Drug testing in the high street, you're going out, you're not doing any harm, and there you go, someone comes up to you and just drug tests you in the street. That seems a little bit wrong. 0845 688 1052, that's my phone number. Let's talk to Stuart in Blackpool. Stuart, you're on Kerrang, welcome to the show.
Hi, I want to talk to you about the drug thing.
Yeah, well, you're in the right place. Yeah.
Itemizer, I think it's called, yeah.
Yes.
What happens with people, you actually said this on the last call about medication. Now, some people have to take cannabis for medication.
No, they don't.
They've legalised it for medication.
No, they haven't.
Well, I know someone's parents who's had to take it for something like that. So,
that's an urban myth, if ever I heard one. If they'd legalised cannabis for medical reasons, that would have been a huge story, and loads of people who listen to this show would have told me. I can't believe that the way I find out is by you just announcing it now.
Okay, okay. Say if I'm wrong anyway, but if it was right, my argument is, if Amy said it before, if you were going up to somewhere and they've gone, oh, you took them drugs, and you've gone, wait, I can prove why I've taken it here, and basically shown them their medical records or whatever, and said, look, I've been legalised to take it just because I've got an illness.
What are you talking about? Listen, you're saying if it was legal to take drugs, then this wouldn't be a very good idea.
In a medical sense, it can stop a thing that eats away at your flesh or something. I can't remember the disease.
We've had people in the studio who do use cannabis for medical reasons, and I support them looking into legalising it and all that kind of stuff. But it's not currently legal. That's why people campaign for it to be legalised.
Okay, say if it was legal then. Sorry, I've got it wrong.
Right.
It would still be embarrassing. Say you don't want to tell anyone.
It's not
anything.
Currently legal. What? How can you? That doesn't make any sense.
No, what I'm trying to say, if they do make it legal in the future, it's for medical reasons,
right,
and you go out for a drink just with your friends, and they get you to put your hand on the itemizer.
Then they'd find out that you'd done a legal substance, and they'd go, "That's all right."
But then you would have to prove that you do, because it will only be legal for medical reasons.
What? So the basis of your argument is this. I don't think this would stand up in court, but it's not court. It's we're just chatting. We're working things out. We're sorting out the big issues of the day, mate. Don't worry. But let me just sort of clear this up. What you're saying is this is bad, right? Because if in the future they made it legal, right, and
for only medical reasons,
and there was someone who was using this, right, who didn't realise that it was now legal, and they went, right, you've taken a legal drug for medical reasons, but I'm gonna arrest you because of this. Then what?
No, I think you've got the wrong idea. What I'm trying to say is, if the person knows.
I don't think it's me with the wrong idea. I think it's you with your wrong idea.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, if they went up to the bouncer and they got put the hand on this thing, and they've gone, "Where there, you've taken cannabis." Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go, whether I've been authorised by a doctor to take it.
Yeah.
Here's my record.
And
they show the record.
all right.
That's going to embarrass you around your friends, because what if you don't want your friends to know? They might think differently of you.
Well, maybe they could do it discreetly.
Well, how are you supposed to do it discreetly? They're coming up with a fuss saying you took cannabis, we're going to take you away.
Yeah. But I think they probably. I don't think that's the strongest argument I've ever heard about. I don't think, had I have said that to Alex, who's worked the doors in clubs, I think he would have probably, like not really, he wouldn't have backed down. I think he would have said, Nick, you're talking nonsense.
Well, I just reckon it would be embarrassing in front of your friends if you went, oh, I have to take it for medical reasons. This is a reason.
If it was legal.
For medical reasons.
Which it's not.
Well, it might be in the future.
It might be.
So they are trying to make it legal for the future.
That's right, yeah. Listen, Stuart, good call. Thanks for calling the show. Stuart in Blackpool. Okay, so you see, it's not as simple as you thought, and good points made. 0845 688 1052. That's my phone number. Taking some more calls soon. So, why is cannabis illegal? And then the itomizer, which is an absolutely true thing. And then talking of the truth, we've been exposing the truth behind the character known as James Bond. If you've read the original books and you want to enlighten the nation about the real James Bond. Another thing he often did is he did that. He would talk like that all the time, and it's like you can't understand. In fact, he would rarely communicate with any of his fellow human beings at all. James Bond, he doesn't bother. One of the things he liked doing is squeezing spots. He would do that all the time, and then he would squeeze spots on the mirror and not clean the mirror afterwards. He'd leave all of the stuff on the mirror, hanging, all the pus that he'd squeezed out of his spots. Disgusting. I mean, I'm sick of him. I think he just needs to sort himself out. Scared of heights. Can't even a foot off the ground, and he'd be terrified to bits. So in the real James Bond, there's a lot to be said there. 0845 688 1052. That's my phone number. Okay, so listen, stand by. On the way next, we're going to find out whether or not Jesus was an Egyptian spellcaster who indulged in secret nocturnal initiation ceremonies with young boys. Lynn, Picknett and Clive Prince will be talking to us about the real Jesus next here on Kerrang.
The Night Before with Nick Margerrison.
Kerrang Radio, it's the night before. My name's Nick Margerrison. I read a book this year that I've talked about on air a few times, and I think it's one of the most explosive books I've ever read in my life. It's called The Masks of Christ. It tells the story of Jesus like you would a novel. You can pick it up and you read it, and it makes sense. But what it does is it points to where all of this information is coming from, the historical text as well as the Bible, and pieces together a picture of Jesus that some people may find genuinely shocking, and that might be the case during this interview when we talk to Clive Prince and Lynn Picknett. We're going to be talking about the resurrection of Lazarus, which is a story that some people may not be familiar with. Guys, do you want to tell us the official mainstream version of the story of Lazarus, and then we'll get into what you think actually happened and some of the stuff behind it?
And this is where Lazarus, who is a friend of Jesus, dies while Jesus isn't around. His sisters send out to Jesus to say that their brothers died, and he's described as someone that Jesus loved. Was a great friend of both him and his sisters. Jesus, after a while, is persuaded to come back and try and sort this out, by which time the guy's been dead for 4 days, according to the standard telling of the story. And he's already been put in his tomb, which is a rock tomb. Jesus comes back and does a bit of praying, brings the guy back from the dead.
So that's the official story.
But it was taken out of the original version of Mark's Gospel because it was something that was deemed only for initiates. They call it the secret gospel. The original version was called the secret gospel, and many parts were taken out.
Whoa, hang on a minute. So this is big. So let me get my head around this. What you're telling me is that the story of the resurrection of Lazarus is, if you go and buy a copy of the Bible, you'll only find it in one of the Gospels. However, there was a finding made of a different version of the Gospel of Mark, which includes the story of Lazarus and which appears to be a secret version of the Gospel of Mark, only for high initiates of Christianity.
Yes.
Good God!
And the reason it's taken out is because when you read it in that version, in Mark's original version, it's a ritual. It's not a literal, as it's told in John's Gospel, it's told in a very literal way. Jesus brings somebody dies, Jesus brings them back from the dead, kind of end of story. In the original Mark version, it's very clear this is a symbolic death and rebirth that a lot of the pagan mystery cults of the time went through. It's a ritual. It's a ritualistic element, and it actually has another part to it where the young man, Lazarus, is... after being brought back from the dead, then goes to a nocturnal initiation ceremony with Jesus that marks the entry into his innermost group.
Hang on a minute. A nocturnal initiation ceremony.
Yeah, I mean, modern people, including you, Nick, I think, just then, probably think immediately, oh, there's something a bit dodgy, a bit sexual maybe about this. And various commentators have suggested that it was a sexual ritual. And we have no more information, annoyingly, about that. But, it's possible, because gurus, they do get up to this kind of stuff. And it is indeed part of sexual mysticism. So, maybe it was. But the major point, as far as I can see, is that from these stories, and indeed others, is that Jesus reserved some inner teachings for his inner circle, great secrets, which you only, you're initiated into. It wasn't, in other words, his message wasn't for everybody.
So this is huge. Hang on, let me get my head around this. This is huge, and I imagine that people listening to the show will be having difficulty believing some of this. It's so big. What you're telling me is that, firstly, there's a secret copy of the Bible, secret Mark, a secret gospel written by him. Secondly, what you're telling me is that these secrets have been a part of Christianity all the way back to Jesus himself. Jesus kept secrets. He had nocturnal initiation ceremonies that he carried out with some chap called Lazarus. And also, you're telling me that these sort of hidden parts of Christianity could be the key to understanding the whole thing. I remember in the book you talked about the Egyptian mysteries. What is that?
At the time that Jesus was doing his thing in the world around him, the Roman Empire, all these pagan, what they called the mystery cults, the mystery schools, all based really around dying and rising gods and goddesses. They all had these kind of inner rituals in which you were initiated into it. Things like baptism was a classic one, going through a symbolic death and rebirth. Another key one is the idea that you eat the body and drink the blood of a god in the form of bread and wine in order to form a mystical communion with them. All things we're very familiar with in Christianity, but which had been around not in the Jewish world that Jesus is supposed to be part of, but the pagan world around him, well before he came on the scene. Most historians and academics deal with it by assuming all the mystical stuff, the pagan stuff, was added on later by Christians, had nothing to do with what Jesus was about. But when we went back into the history of it, we've actually found, no, both are equally significant.
So did Jesus, in the opinion of you two, I don't know if you believe in the supernatural or not, but in your opinion, did Jesus possibly have any supernatural powers?
In a way, we'll never know the answer to that. It kind of amuses us that, you talk to vicars and priests and you use the word occult to them and you say, oh, Jesus was obviously an occultist. He could do all... How dare you? They're, not the occult, that's a naughty thing. Jesus was Jesus and only he could do these things. Well, we do believe that it's possible for people to have, unusual powers, shall we say.
You're literally talking about the occult means hidden.
Yes.
And he was literally using hidden magic, which has been concealed from humanity over these years. I'm absolutely blown away. I mean, Lazarus is a story that, like I say, not perhaps everyone listening to the show was initially familiar with, but when I read the stuff in your book and the conversation we've just had, I think it's possibly one of the most fascinating aspects of his story. I want to thank you guys for coming on the show. I'm stunned. I mean, I imagine the rest of the nation's stunned.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
The Night Before with Nick Margerrison.
as a text topic, we're going to, for anyone who has read the original James Bond, we're going to extend this topic into a text topic because we're already getting a lot of texts. Adam has sent me a text saying James Bond played lead guitar for Blondie, 1979 to 1981 era. Clearly, Adam has read the book and he does know his stuff there. We're talking about the original James Bond in the book, not the one in the film. I mean, Kingy on the text, very annoyed. So much for freedom of thought, Nick. With all the crap you're filling people's heads with, James Bond was certainly not like that. Well, we're talking about the original books, and we're asking what he was like, not what he wasn't like. So 6400K at the front of your text. Senior producer Alex, are you remembering now that you've read the...
I'm getting on board with it. I seem to remember, didn't he have like a massive beard?
He does have a big beard.
Really big beard, with a bird in it.
Yeah, a big Christmas beard. Big Santa beard.
Almost like a joke beard.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he would, you know those rubbish joke disguises with the nose and the glasses and all that? He would often wonder, that was him being a spy. That's where the spy thing comes from. He thought those kind of things were funny.
He used to wear shin pads as well, just for fun, just for kicks.
All the time he would wear shin pads.
I remember it being really strange that he had a beard, though, because he had a receding hairline in the book,
Yes,
didn't
he did, yeah.
A receding hairline, that's absolutely true. He has a really bad receding hairline, but he was one of these people that he didn't deal with it. He just had it, and people would go up to him and they would call him slaphead, right?
Yeah,
and he
would
would
kind of go,
like
that.
And rather than standing up for himself, he'd try and join in and go, "Yeah, I am a slaphead, aren't I?
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm James Bond."
Really unintelligent chat, really.
Very, very, very like that. I mean, some of the things about the original James Bond are quite mind-blowing if you've never read the original book. 6400K at the front of your text. If you have read the original books and you want to spread very unclean nails as well, messy nails.
God, yeah.
Socks and sandals as well, didn't he? Because he wore them because he had athlete's foot.
That's true. He would always wear socks and sandals. And
couldn't swim?
He couldn't swim.
Couldn't swim.
He couldn't swim. In fact, that's how he dies. In the original books, he drowns and dies.
I don't remember that, does he?
Yeah, that's how but he drowns he drowns it in...
Soup.
In soup. That's right. He falls over, he lands in soup, he drowns in a bowl of soup. And then the next book, there's no reference to the fact he's drowned in soup. He's back, he's fine, it's all right. And they never referenced it. And they think that page of the book was accidentally inserted from another book when they were printing the book. Because back in those days, novels, there wasn't a lot of attention to detail. They're printing them all out, and just a random page of a book where some guy drowns in a bowl of soup. They don't know what it is. They think it was from just another book, The Naked Ape by Desmond Morris.
Part of his overeating as well, wasn't it?
So it's a mad book, and
He had a third nipple.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it does, and it's hairy. A third nipple.
Very hairy.
It's hairy, and it's on his arse. Okay, Alex tonight. Yeah, all right, take it away.
Have your say.
Soapbox.
Senior producer Alex here. I want to get on my soapbox and talk about my inadequacy as a man to pack. I find it so difficult to pack. Why can I not pack things? You know, I needed to move a suitcase full of clothes from one place to another place, right? A pretty simple task, you might think. But no, for me it becomes this impossible scenario where I've got these clothes and they're stuffed in the bag and nothing fits and I can't fit anything in or they come out and they're all creased and I've ruined everything. And why is it that girls are so amazing at it? Is there like some girls' school like that you go to when you're like pre-teens or whatever and you go to this school and they teach you how to do all these things? Why am I not able to do all these things? And I can't even do manly things. I can't even put shelves up. And I hate to be sexist and, conform to stereotypes. Oh, men do this and women do that. But, it is the case for me that I need to put shelves up and I need to pack stuff. And my girlfriend can pack stuff really well. She makes it all neat. She just throws things in the bag and automatically, magically, they're folded. And you can fit like 30 times the amount of stuff in. But when I go to do it, it's just complete shambles. And then I try and put a shelf up. I can't do that. Everything falls off. The whole wall practically breaks. My girlfriend goes to do it and she can do it perfectly. We had similar backgrounds, just similar educations. Why is it the case that I can't do any of these things? I want to have children one day and maybe pass on my male expertise to my child or female child or whatever kind of child I have to be able to sort of do these sort of things like change a tyre or fix something or put a shelf up like I said or make a shed or just these things. And where do I learn these things and why has no one taught me? Help!
Get on the box.
Call now on 0845 688 1052.
The Night Before with Nick Margerrison. Kerrang Radio.
Kerrang Radio, it's the night before. Hello, my name's Nick Margerrison. Phone in chunk number 2. Yeah, where we take calls from across the nation. 0845 688 1052. One of the most reliable sources of information, actually, listening to these chunks. These are people calling in, dishing out their truths. You're getting to see the world through loads of different people's eyes, and it's genuinely one of the most exciting things in the world that you could be doing with yourself. Before we go to some calls, though, Amy Jones, show the world what the world looks like through your eyes. The eyes of a woman who was hanging out with the lead singer from Cage the Elephant. Is that right?
Well, only for a bit, yeah. I went to see them last night in Casbah in Coventry, which in itself is an amazing place. And we went and saw them, and I was watching on the stage, and I like Cage the Elephant, but I never thought they were anything amazing. On stage, they were absolutely unbelievable. Took my breath away. They had got such presence on stage. So I was watching him and falling in love with him as he was singing, and he got a really nice tattoo that I really liked. But then he came off stage, and then me and Lana from the office went to go and chat to him. And as we were chatting to him, it dawned on me that I was talking to this really cool, sexy and fit guy. I turned into a complete and utter dork. And I started saying all these really stupid things that were really inappropriate and really not worth saying. At the end of it, I left it on, anyway, you good luck with everything and keep yourself safe, yeah?
Oh, God.
Why would you say that to one of the coolest guys I've ever met?
You got a pretty cool job. You could have done some, yeah,
you
not
keep
bad
yourself
looking.
safe, yeah.
You could have...
No, because I was looking at him and just thinking, you're fit and you're lovely and I would want to marry you and procreate with you. And there's me telling him how he should keep himself safe. And
did you go backstage and all that?
No, we weren't allowed because obviously I was acting like a dork, and then he wouldn't let me backstage.
Really?
no, we weren't. We were just passing, and we just spoke to him just before we were leaving, so we had to go. Unfortunately.
Right. Okay. Let's take some calls. 0845 688 1052. That's my phone number. You call to show me and the Live to the Nation, talking about life, the universe, and everything. One of the things that is up for discussion at the moment, an unbelievable story, which is absolutely true. And what's happening is this: they're trialling something called the Itemizer. They're trialling it up in Scotland. And they're actually using it in Scotland. They're trialling it in England. And what it is, it's a thing that gives you a random drugs test. So maybe you're popping in. So hang on a minute, Matt on the road, right? Maybe you're going into a pub and there's an Itemizer there, and you have to do a random drugs test. What do you reckon to that, Matt?
That might be a bit of a problem since I don't drink anymore.
You don't? Well, you could still go to a pub. You might be excited by the karaoke night.
Yeah, I might be, but I'm more and more worried about the actual fact that it's the offshoot of that is it's actually illegal now not to provide your name and address to the police when they actually stop you.
Is that true? It's illegal not to provide your name and address to the police?
Yeah, because they've got to identify you, haven't they, when they actually stop you or caution you, because they've got to register they actually cautioned you.
Right. I thought you had to say, I need my lawyer or whatever.
No, it's I don't know how long ago it's come in, but it's, even if you watch any of the police programs now, you have to provide your name and address just to confirm that you're who you actually say you are. But the other thing of it is, isn't it just another example of police shifting targets again, going for, soft targets? I mean, the easiest one is...
because the crime detection figures will go through the roof as they bust all the minor pot dealers that are going to their local pub, yeah.
Well, is it classed as a minor crime or is it classed as a major crime? Because they what was it? It was early this year, they turned around and said about decriminalising cannabis or keeping the level at C.
They've whacked it up from a C to a B, yeah.
B. Gordon Brown ignored all what the experts said and they said, oh no, we'll raise it to a B. That increases the level of the actual offence, you see. So therefore, when they actually convict someone, they've convicted them on a higher offence, and therefore their figures go up, and therefore it makes the police look better, which makes, in turn, the government look better because they're actually fighting crime.
You're telling me it's spin, isn't it? Yeah. Do you know what? I think that makes a lot of sense to me, Matt. Thanks for the call, Matt on the road. 0845 688 1052. I'd be very interested to hear from anyone who's had one of these things used on them or has used one of them. You know, who's seen one of these things in action. 0845 688 1052. I know some of the dodgy clubs that I used to go to. I can just imagine the looks on some people's faces. Yeah, they've got a thing here. It's going to test if you've ever done drugs. I'm gonna go home and watch X Factor. Just remembered I like it. Bye bye. Be quite interesting. I oppose it, but I don't know why I oppose it. I can't articulate why I think it's a wrong thing? 0845 688 1052. That's the number. Tony in Leeds, perhaps you can help me. What's wrong with this idea, do you think?
Well, apart from the fact that was such a stereotypical chav on drugs, but probably more than just chavs take drugs. But the problem is, you were saying earlier on...
What are you talking about?
You. There's no...
Me?
You said earlier on, there's no legal types of marijuana.
Right.
Apart from Maridinol, which is used for joint pain and also people with eating problems.
What's it called?
Marinol.
Marinol. And is that in the UK?
Yes, it is.
Well, that is big news. I mean,
it's prescription only, and yeah.
Marinol. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're telling me that there is legal cannabis in this country, legal for medical use. I mean, that's huge.
It's the same thing as it's not the 300 chemicals pumped in with the usual drugs like that you'll probably find on your street. It's the other stuff.
So but it is legal marijuana. That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
You're telling me and the nation. And it's available...
Well, probably not the whole nation, because they won't all be listening, but...
What they do, listen, let me tell you, right? Those that aren't able to listen now, let me tell you what they do. They download...
They listen to radio too.
No, they download a podcast that we've got. And thousands and thousands of people catch up with the show via the podcast. Available on iTunes. If you check for it the night before on iTunes, you can download the whole show. We just take the music out and people download it. So actually, as a point of fact... Everybody in the UK is hearing these words right now. Everyone.
Well, then they're not hearing it right now if they're downloading it later.
No, they are. No, they are. They are. Because
so if they're hearing it now, what's the point of the podcast?
It's a magic podcast, right? And and you listen to it in the future, right? And it means you've known it, you've always heard it.
Quite obviously.
That's how it works.
Are you for or against drugs, did you say earlier?
Well, listen, drugs are illegal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, drugs are illegal, so I can't say that I'm for them because, they're illegal, they're bad for you. But what have we got here? We got some information on this stuff you're telling us. Marinol. Apparently it's a legal but lightly regulated marijuana-like drug. It's not actually marijuana.
It's taken from the same plant.
Yeah, it's marijuana-like. It's not actually marijuana. So you're wrong.
But it's taken from the same plant.
No, I know, but you've led me a merry dance, haven't you, Tony in Leeds? Because you came along, you told me it was legal, that marijuana was legal. You'll have loads of people, and they'll be going, oh, wow, that's amazing. But it's not actually made from the plant. It's synthetically made THC. So you're wrong.
And you're...
Listen, thanks for the call. All the best. And he's hung up. Good lad. 0845 688 1052. Why did he take the half? I was just correcting him. He was involved in an ego game there. He wasn't trying to get the truth out. He was involved in an ego game. Fair enough. Good lad. Thanks for calling. Never call again, you band. David in Weston, you're on Kerrang. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, how's it going, mate?
I'm all right, yeah. I'm weirded out by that guy flipping out on me and hanging up.
Yeah.
That was strange.
Yeah.
You're not going to do the same, are you, David?
No.
I have a very small ego. You see, the thing is, what I do is I pretend that criticism doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
But then I go, when people hang up on me, when people hang up on me, you want to see me at night, I can't sleep.
You lose sleep over it.
Yeah, I'll be crying about all the people that hate me.
Hard times.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh, why? Why? I'm just trying to help. And then that.
Yeah. Well, basically, the whole drug thing.
Yeah.
What's the system called again? Going into clubs?
The itemizer.
Yeah, that thing. I'm not a huge drinker, and I don't do drugs. But how many people have you seen get into fights and cause trouble as a
consequence of cannabis?
As a consequence of alcohol. Yeah.
This is a common argument, isn't it? A lot of people say this. Cannabis doesn't make you fight.
High, to sort of kick back, don't they?
Yeah. Sometimes, though, I mean, there are... I don't want to get into the specifics, but there are cases, both active and resolved, where people have become violent after a long history of cannabis abuse, and they've lost touch with reality so much that they've become violent.
Yeah, I understand. There's a few drugs, quite a few, that need to be monitored, and you can't let people in clubs who are off their face on dangerous drugs. But cannabis, like you say, hard users can get paranoid and cause violence. But people on a night out who might happen to be high, in my opinion, aren't going to cause trouble.
Well, you see, the thing is I think, really, the problem with the drugs laws is dead simple, is that, drugs, the long-term effects of them are bad, right? But the long-term effects of loads of stuff is bad, and that's just life. The long-term effects of life is death. You die. If you're going to live, you're going to die. You inhale oxygen, you're going to die. Oxygen's addictive and it kills you in the end because you die. And that's true, actually. Oxides, what's it called now? There's little bits of your blood, isn't there, that make you age, oxidants or something. It comes from oxygen.
Well, you can actually get high off pure oxygen.
Is that true?
Well, yeah, people are addicted to it. They put those masks on, don't they? And they suck in pure oxygen, and it gives them a buzz. It gets them high.
So they suck in a massive whack of oxygen, and then they're... So maybe all of us lot are high on oxygen, and we just don't realise it.
Well, yeah, perhaps.
You'd never know, would you? Because everyone else would be high, and you'd just be like wandering around, not knowing what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. But then I'd also like to just ask you about the James Bond thing as well.
Yeah.
Are you being serious about this?
Yeah.
Or is it like a joke?
No. I mean, have you read the original Bond books?
Because I've been a huge Bond fan since GoldenEye, and I haven't seen the original books. I don't even know how to get hold of one. I never.
Really? Well, just go and buy them. I mean, you can buy them anywhere. But there's different versions. But I mean, GoldenEye's based on, the original version of GoldenEye. That was about how James Bond lies a lot. I mean, we mentioned that earlier on. He's a liar, and originally it was called Brown Eye, and it was all about how he lies all the time. And he was just a constant liar, and he'd exaggerate things. He'd lie unnecessarily as well. He'd someone would say to him, "Hey James, how's it going?" And he'd go, "I'm all right, but I've had a bit of a bad day today." And then he'd invent a huge story. Whole thing's a parody.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I just can't believe that because it's just really weird.
I know.
It shocked me.
It is. I mean, it is a shock when people. But I mean, just pick up one of the books, have a read. I mean, the whole of Brown Eye, which is the original title of the book, it's a parody. And it's taken the mick out of, the whole idea of humanity and a human being. It's quite a profound book, but the spelling's really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mad. Listen, David, good call, man. Thanks for calling the show. I mean, we've got some text on this, by the way. 64100K at the front of your text. We'll read out for some of the people who have read the originals. 64100K at the front of your text if you've read one of the original Bond books, and we will continue exposing the truth about the real character. Let's get Mike in Wednesbury on the show, or in Birmingham, which is easier for me to say. Mike, you're on Kerrang. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Actually, I was under the impression that the original James Bond character was styled on Norman Wisdom, to be perfectly honest.
Was styled and based on Norman Wisdom. That's true, yeah.
It would fit pretty much with your descriptions throughout the night.
No, that's true. No, that's absolutely right. He was modelled on Norman Wisdom. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, the whole character's certainly based on Norman Wisdom. And sometimes in some of the books, he's called Norm. They call him Norm and Normie. So it's Norman Bond. That's true.
Right, cannabis.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of the topics that we're bombarded with on a daily basis, where there's a hell of a lot of misdirection. Society, certainly in this country and quite a few other places in the world, has basically become lazy. We don't really think. We don't question things. We're very easily directed. We're basically, the majority of people are just sheep. You stick a label on something, like call something that people really ought to question a conspiracy theory, and straight away people associate nutcases with it, and they don't want to question it, they don't want to look into it, they don't want to think about it because they don't want to be a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff is prevalent in the media. One of the reasons that things like Marinol hasn't been widely advertised is because it's been basically stressed that it shouldn't be advertised, because then the media would be responsible for complete drug addicts, the stereotypical druggie that we're all sort of bombarded with on a daily basis through the papers, would then all be going out and getting this legal derivative.
I see. Now, so let me ask you this, because like I say, we just did a little bit of, we had a couple of our researchers on it on the internet, and it's saying it's a marijuana-like drug. It's not actually...
Well, the thing is, suppose tomorrow I invented a way to completely synthetically create crack cocaine. Would the fact that it's a synthetic copy make any difference? I would guarantee it would be illegal. The problem with marijuana, and it's the same with most things, if you follow the money, you start to get a better idea. Tobacco, it's not quite as easy a plant to grow as marijuana. Marijuana plants, you can literally just throw a load of seeds by the side of the motorway, which is what people used to do. And even in our climate, they'll still grow. They won't have quite a high incidence of the actual chemicals in there that you get high off.
It's a hardy plant.
It's a very hardy plant.
Grow on the end of your toenail if you plant it
Now,
there.
the problem there is, suppose they did make it legal and they tried to go for the tax money. Well, this is from a governmental point of view. The problem there is that once it became legal, anybody could grow it. You could devote a little bit of your allotment, a bit of your garden. So all the people who would, people talk about, why don't they legalise it, why don't they go for the tax? Because if they legalised it, put it in a shop, people would then go and buy it. They wouldn't, because once it's legal, anybody who wanted some would actually just go and buy some, I forget what it is now.
Seeds.
Hemp. You can buy the unboiled hemp. And basically you'll get maybe, even in the boiled hemp, to be perfectly honest, you'll get maybe 1 out of every 500 seeds will still propagate.
So what you're saying is everyone would just grow their own?
Yeah, well, this is the problem, because it's quite an easy plant to grow. And light users wouldn't be bothered about, the more refined forms of the plant. Basically, if they can get high off it, that will do. And you can use the entire plant. People will boil the stalks to actually make tea with it.
Cannabis tea? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, you actually, once people have used the entire plant, people actually grow it themselves. And this is what a lot of people who suffer with arthritis and stuff like that, that's what they tend to prefer. They will actually boil it and then make drinks with it.
I didn't know. I've never heard that.
Well, things that are omitted about cannabis is that when people go up through the drug regimes for diseases like cancer, when they get to the top of the tree and things like morphine just aren't working, cannabis still will with a lot of people.
Do you know what, Mike? You're a wise man. Thanks for calling the show. Mike in Birmingham. I'm going to move on. 0845 688 1052 is the number. Let me scan here. Slightly tight on time. Let's get Kitty in Telford on the subject of the itomiser, random drug testing outside bars and clubs. Thoughts, Kitty in Telford?
Hi there, Nick.
Hello.
I don't really get what the hell it's about. I mean, I don't personally take drugs or agree with people taking them, but I would point blank refuse to go anywhere operating that system because it's an invasion of my privacy. I mean, at the end...
Yeah, but then again, carry on, keep talking, but I think me and you agree, but I think we're probably wrong. Carry on.
Really? Well, you're surrendering your free will. I mean, everyone knows that drugs are bad for you and they shouldn't do it, but it's your decision whether or not to take them. And I mean, people make bad decisions every day and do things that they shouldn't really do, and it might not be particularly pleasant for everyone around them, but, if you agree to this and that 42-day rule, sorry.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it's going to be something else, and the day after it's going to be something else, till it gets completely out of hand, and you can't take a piss without getting arrested for it. It is going to get to that. I mean, I go down the pub with my mates. I don't like drunk old men slobbering on me while I'm trying to have a laugh.
Yeah.
So who welcomes the rule that if you're old and lovely, you can't have one more pint?
You just need to stop going to the pub with me and Alex. That's what it is. That's what's happening. Let me ask you though, Kitty. I mean, I think you and I broadly agree. I think you're about right with this, but also I feel that we what we're saying wouldn't stand up in court, because what I'm saying is I'm against this because it feels like the oncoming Big Brother state, and the fingers of Big Brother touching my private area again, which I'm not happy about. But at the same time, I don't know that most people are going to get on board with that argument. It's because most people go, like me and you would say, well, drugs aren't good and taking them isn't good. So surely if you can catch people who are taking them and give them a stern warning, then that's good.
Well, yeah, fair enough if you can catch them, but I think it's a bit of an extreme way of catching them because you're penalising everyone who doesn't take drugs as well. You're assuming that everyone is bad and everyone is taking drugs. And yeah, it probably would work and stop people who use drugs going into clubs, but what about everywhere else?
It's sort of ruining all the fun that police should have doing detective work and being Sherlock Holmes.
It's like Alex was saying earlier, the doorman. But I mean, he's a doorman, so he's got to expect trouble, hasn't he, really?
Yeah.
What's to stop him getting stabbed when he's walking down the street by a complete stranger?
Hopefully that'll not, nothing like that would ever happen to anyone. To anyone who listens to the show, but yeah.
You you can't stop people doing things that they shouldn't do without taking away everyone's rights. Do you know what I mean? The idea probably would work, but you're penalising everyone for,
do you know what, Kitty?
the few that do wrong.
You're making a lot of sense. Thanks for the call. Kitty in Telford, final call for this chunk. We've not got much time, but I do want to get Tony the Sheldon Shaman on. Sheldon Shaman, how's it going, man? Yeah.
All right, man. The big brother moves on.
Yeah, the big brother news hound. Well, let me ask you, Sheldon Shaman, what do you make of this itemiser thing?
Stick it up the Jaxie as far as I'm concerned.
Right. But
just big brother control.
Yeah?
Why
do you
don't
think
they
so?
shove someone up our Jaxie and test what we ate today?
Find out what we've been eating healthily.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
That's going to be the next step, isn't it, mate? You will take a dump in the toilet and they will analyse what you've been eating and then tell you
green
off.
bogies up your nose or something.
Yeah.
That are illegal.
Yeah, they'll be checking your bogies, they'll be investigating your bogies, your backside, and you will need a licence to have any toilet action or anything like that.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like that's the way it's going, man. I feel like we're being turned into...
It's a joke.
We're being turned into robots.
Wake up, people, wake up before it's too late, because we're in for a Third World War soon.
A Third World War?
Oh, yes, Bush is trying to arrange that.
Do you think so?
Oh, definitely so.
How do you know that, though?
I've heard about it. Some of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from the Pentagon have had a talk with the Russians saying they want to prevent this nutcase from starting the Third World War.
No way.
Yeah.
So when's that going to happen?
2010.
2010?
Yeah, so they reckon. Who knows? Who cares anyway? They're always up to something. They're just playing games with our heads. It's all about control. Right. What I'd like to talk about is something more interesting than freaks.
Well, very quickly, because we're very short on time.
You know Dennis Richards?
Dennis Richards.
With the tumours.
Yeah, who came in and told us the story about how his tumours had been extracted by aliens, yeah.
How relative the rabbit was.
Say again?
The rabbit, he had an image of a rabbit on him, taking these tumours out.
Yeah, a rabbit came along and took his tumours out, yeah.
Well, the rabbit is it's a screen memory, it's a false memory syndrome, what we call it. And what it is, the rabbit is an inoffensive, unthreatening animal, and it burrows. So it's taking away the illness from him. It burrows into him.
So that's the symbolism behind the rabbit. Because, I said we did an interview with this guy who came on the airwaves, told us about how he'd had his tumours extracted from him. Yeah. And I mentioned that the symbolism of the rabbit would be important.
Well, you see, that symbol of the rabbit, like I've just explained, is inoffensive, it's unthreatening, but it's a screen memory for him, because if they'd appeared to him what they really are, it might have scared him and he couldn't have accepted it. So they're just delivering what they think that mind can accept. And the other thing I'd like to talk about as quick as I can is the grinning man.
The grinning man?
I've experienced it twice in my life. Once when I was about 13, 14.
What, a grinning man?
Yeah, and when I was 24. And the first time, I'll tell you as quick as I can, my dad was on nights and I was at home. I was in bed and I seen this grinning man through the wall, walking up the stairs. He always got a checkered shirt on, by the way. And he was walking up the stairs with a knife in his hand.
God.
Yeah, that was, I could see him. He was real to me. And I shouted out to me mum, "Good night, Mum." She said, she's like more or less asleep. She said, "What?" I said, "Good night, Mum." And I felt ashamed that I hadn't got out of bed to tackle him, but I was listening so intently. So was me dog.
What did the grinning man do?
Nothing. And then another time, like, this is in UFO folklore, this is.
Hang on, listen, Tony the Sheldon Shaman, you'll have to continue that call next time round, because we're so short on time. We're going to dive into the next part of the show, so he can call in tomorrow, and it will be part 2 of that call, because I know he has a huge chunk of fans that listen to the show every single night. Listen, stand by. On the way next, we're going to be interviewing Paul Marks. He's going to be talking about new technology, which is available for the army to fight our enemies with. He's on the way next here on Kerrang.
The night before. Podcast.
Kerrang Radio, it's the night before. My name's Nick Margerrison. With us, we've got Paul Marks from New Scientist magazine, and he's going to talk to us about, well, this is an unbelievable form of new military technology. Let me explain this, right? You know, cluster bombs, right, they're bad, aren't they? They drop a load of bombs all across the place, and there's a new type of bomb that releases a swarm of bomblets that pursue and destroy targets. So you'd see the bombs being dropped, you'd think, oh, bugger, I better run away from there. And then you'd see loads of bombs flying towards you. Unbelievable stuff. Paul Marks, thanks for joining us on the show.
That's all right.
Now, this is something you wrote about in an article in New Scientist. I mean, do they exist in real life yet?
Not yet, no. What they're trying to do is have a bomb that drops submunitions, bomblets, and each one is individually targetable so that they can chase for up to 5 kilometres, about 3.5 miles, individual targets. And what they're initially after is people to invent something that can do that part of it, the actual discrimination of targets. So is that a 4x4 or is that a school bus? Is it a target or isn't it? So they're starting with the bit of this that will seek out the target. Then they've got to work out how to make it get there.
So these things would literally be working out. They think, oh, that's a school bus. Don't want to. Oh, that guy over there, that's a terrorist. Let's zoom in and hit him. That's the kind of thing they're looking for.
This is it, and it's also the risk because they want this to be able to lose track of something and then reacquire it. And a lot of experts I've been talking to in robotics say that is a very, very demanding thing. So say your target disappears under a tree and you're tracking a terrorist 4x4, goes under a tree, can't see it for a second, out comes a school bus. But it's probably going to reacquire that school bus. It's a very risky thing to be doing.
I find this kind of thing absolutely terrifying, Paul. Let me tell you, I've been looking into, I've been watching some of the press coverage and looking into some of the sort of press releases and stuff like that that's coming out of the military at the moment. And it seems at the moment there's a very strong agenda for what I would describe as non-human combatants, and that would involve. I don't know if you saw the story recently about dogs of war, so that would involve using dogs as combatants, real trained dogs that will be used with webcams to see if there are bombs around, and literally parachute these things in, have them running around and responding to commands. So there's that, and then there's the other part of the non-human combatants, which is literally what you're talking about, robots that are working out who should get killed and who shouldn't.
By 2015, the Bush administration, RIP, is hoping that about 1/3 of its forces will be unmanned, as they call them. So that's unmanned aircraft, unmanned ground vehicles, and even unmanned, ships.
So we're wandering off now, you and I and the rest of the human race, into a future where wars will be fought and carried out by dispassionate robots.
That's the scenario a lot of people want, yeah. And the worry there, of course, is that once you have a robot out on a battlefield, who ultimately ends up in control of it, and what happens if it gets abandoned?
This is genuinely terrifying stuff. It's Kerrang Radio. It's the night before. We got Paul Marks with us from New Scientist magazine, just written an article about cluster bombs and the sheer fear of cluster bombs that can actually then fire off little bomblets that will track you down and chase after you down the street. What stuff have they asked for in the past?
Oh, very interesting stuff, like stuff that will tell if somebody is stressed and whether they're lying, for instance. So you come across someone in the street and you think, is that someone who's about to pull a gun or blow themselves up? They've asked for sort of like intention detection systems that will work out, is there, bounce a laser off their skin, see the sort of sweat levels, that kind of thing. That will give you an indication as to whether the person is either being deceptive or is about to pull a gun on you because they're sweating slightly, or perhaps you could also with these lasers sense their pulse, so you might be able to also tell if they're about to do something.
Because long-range mind-reading equipment is rumoured to exist in the world. Certainly stuff that you stick on your head, they can have a reasonable level of accuracy in reading your mind, can't they?
Well, not really. I mean, you can't. That would imply that you could have get rid of courts of law and just use those as lie detectors. They're just very inaccurate, and there's a lot of. It's called functional magnetic resonance imaging, and it's not very accurate.
What does that mean? Talk us through how it works.
You can see which bits of the brain light up when you think certain thoughts, and there are some correlations between what you think when and. But you can't guarantee that's the case.
Yeah, we interviewed someone about that a bit ago. I think some of the people who were developing the technology, and the way they explained it is if you think of a tool, then a bit of your brain will light up in a certain colour. If you think of a building, a different bit of your brain will light up in a different colour.
Yeah.
Is that broadly right?
Except it's not the same for everybody, so it's not very useful.
Is that right? So it's different for different people?
Very possibly. No one knows. It's just, the amount of things you could possibly think of are just infinite. And which bit of your brain can be very different.
Let me ask you, right, final question. You're the guy who does the research for New Scientist. You look at this military technology and this kind of stuff. What kind of nightmares do you have?
I think the worst thing is we're starting with the addition of tasers to robots now, and soon I imagine that's going to move up to not the non-lethal weapons but the lethal weapons, and I think that's just a step too far.
So you think the next step will be fully armed, fully automated robots?
Yeah, I was at a conference earlier this year where that's being talked about, yeah. Yep.
Okay, that's terrifying. Listen, Paul Marks, thanks for joining us from New Scientist, one of my favourite magazines in the world. And, thanks for being on the show, man.
That's all right.
Kerrang Radio.
The Night Before with Nick Margerrison.
Kerrang Radio.
Remember that night, the night before.
When Nick met David Gracer, a man who eats insects for dinner. Sometimes.
Is that right?
Entomophagy, what is that?
Well, it's basically two root words combined, entomo for insect and phagy for eating.
What was the last insect that you ate?
Strawberry tart with cricket flour just now.
Right.
And I've had cicadas recently and crickets. Most foods get safer to eat when you cook them. Insects in an urban environment might be much likelier to be exposed to heavy metals from exhaust or industrial chemicals, that kind of thing. And, of course, there are some insects that protect themselves with chemistry inside their bodies or stinging hairs or this kind of thing. So just as with mushrooms, most experts would say simply, don't eat something unless you know that it's good to eat. Ants in general are a good food source, and they tend to be tangy and citrusy because of the formic acid that most of them have. And they would be a good source of not only protein, but vitamins and minerals as well. Grasshoppers and crickets make fine food. In my experience, grasshoppers can definitely tend to harbor parasites. But again, cooking your insects negates that risk. Beetles exhibit such diversity. So there are some beetles that are quite toxic. There are some beetles that will just be entirely unpalatable. So it's difficult to say with ants or beetles that they're all fine to eat.
What's your favorite insect to eat?
Well, there's a particular kind. There's several kinds. There's a particular kind of caterpillar known as a waxworm. And it's not a worm, it's a caterpillar. And it's so called because it actually eats beeswax. It's a pest for the beekeeper. Yes. And so they're quite tasty. There's large beetle grubs that I've had are very tasty. And even something with the unpromising name of stink bug. Stink bugs are quite tasty. Stink bugs taste a kind of like a cilantro, a bitter, slightly bitter, herby taste. The waxworms are much more like pine nuts or pistachio nuts.
Oh, man.
And these large beetle grubs the size of your thumb, well, when I had one cooked, it was like a bacony soup.
Oh.
Insects have a shorter lifespan, and they're not warm-blooded, which means they don't have to waste resources maintaining a high body temperature, and they don't have a lot of requirements for water or feed or land or time. So they're much, much more efficient at utilizing the resources we give to them, whereas cows and pigs and even sheep and goats are much more wasteful. So therefore, if you want to feed a large number of people, which is what we have on this planet, then it's actually useful to have a food source that is efficient, easy to produce, and nutritious and plentiful. Insects fit that bill. Large mammals do not. Insects generally outcompete almost every other food source nutritionally.
Do not be late. Email the night you remember to nick@kerrangradio.co.uk.
Kerrang Radio.
You are now a member of the Half 12 Hardcore. Half 12
Oh, yeah. 0845 688 1052. That's my phone number. You call the show. Me and Dean live for the nation, talking about life, the universe, and everything. And we will intersperse cheeky little Bond facts via the text. Amy Jones, give us an example.
Apparently, he also used to be a pizza delivery guy.
The original Bond,
Yeah.
that's right. He was a pizza delivery guy in most of the original
text.
books. That's absolutely right. Alex, for example.
Haley says, wasn't he really, really fat?
Yeah, that's true. Morbidly obese
Oh, poor
is the
guy.
actual. Yeah, he was morbidly obese. Fascinating thing, because that's actually how he dies. In one of the books, he's so fat, right, that he's there and he's being all fat, and he collapses in on himself and turns into a massive black hole.
Like a black hole, yeah.
Yeah, and then the next book doesn't even acknowledge
Yeah,
it.
because he keeps dying in random accidents.
He's a
doesn't
little bit
he?
like Kenny out of South Park. He just constantly dying, doesn't make any sense. Listen, let's get a caller on, see if this person has read the original Bond book. Kerrang, you're on the air. What's your name?
Neil.
Hello, Neil. Where are you calling from, mate?
Sorry, Nail, like the river.
Right, oh, Nail.
Niall.
Niall.
I love that name, although
gotcha.
that's a bad character in Hollyoaks.
Oh. It's a good death metal band, though.
Nice name.
Okay, Niall, what have you called us to tell us?
I just want to play some funk bass for you.
Some funk bass.
Oh, wicked.
All right, let's hear it.
Yeah. Hold on, Nation. Okay, here.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Slap that mother.
That's good.
Yeah!
How could you not love that? Let's leave that playing in the background. Keep
playing.
going, and we'll leave that playing in the background as we take some more calls. 0845 688 1052 is the number. You call the show and you get straight through and onto the airwaves. Hang on, has he stopped playing?
Stop playing.
Keep playing.
Niall, keep playing.
That's good.
Here,
Okay.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and keep playing
dude.
in the background. You are now officially the music bed in the background, right? Okay, let's take another call and let's talk to this person. Kerrang, you're on the air. Welcome to the show. What's your name?
He's ruining the music.
Yeah.
That's him.
Is that it? Is that all he had to say? Fair enough. Thanks for the call. 0845 688 1052 is the number. Kerrang, you're on the air. What's your name?
Hello, it's Simon.
Hello, Simon. What have you called us to tell us?
Couple of things.
Uh-huh.
I thought you was going to make a name for me.
A name for you. Right, okay. Yeah, we need to give you an on-air name. Yeah, what is it?
The Simonator.
The Simonator.
That's Ace. Simonator.
I'll be back.
Okay, well, listen.
I'll be back.
What you need to do is every time you call in, you need to tell whoever answers your call that you are called the Simonator.
Fact.
Keep pushing it, and you could be on to being the next Tony the Sheldon Shaman, right? So the Simonator. So the Simonator has been christened. Thanks for the call. 0845 688 1052. Is our slap bass still going?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Sounds a bit like Chili's, huh?
You bet your
James
ass it
Bond
is.
was addicted to spam.
Is that right?
Apparently.
That's on the text, is it, Amy
Yeah.
Jones?
Yeah, the original James Bond had syphilis and multiple boils on his bottom, which extended along his scrotum onto a weeping penis, which smelled of cheese. That's from Tag in Clayhanger, apparently.
That's nasty, isn't it?
Yikes,
Yeah.
poor guy. Did a bit of singing there.
Bit of
as well.
singing going on as well. With the, okay, let's
You need
take
some
another
jazz
call.
piano too.
Kerrang, you're on the air. What's your name?
In my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me.
Come on, Alex, who is
What's
it?
this?
I don't know.
That's a good.
But we've already got the music sorted for this one. We got the funk bass guy.
Quite like that.
Yeah,
though.
it was all right, but we can't. We can't.
Not that this guy's not
compromise.
good.
You can't play two chunks of music at the same time. Kerrang, you're on the air. What's your name?
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson. Boris has not the Boris Johnson, obviously, but Boris, you've called the show. What have you called us to tell us?
Two things.
Yeah.
One, if you're ever trying to come up with a name for a James Bond movie, you have to think, could Shirley Bassey sing it? If the answer is yes, it's a good name. Number two,
Right.
second thing, Amy said planage and now it's legal to kill her.
Planage?
Yeah, I said that's a planage.
Oh, yeah,
Not
that
put H
is
on the end.
bad.
That's not much as bad as ASAP.
Yeah, ASAP.
No, I like saying
Thirdly.
planage.
Yeah. Thirdly.
Thirdly, there are two board games that are the greatest ever made. 9/11 Jenga and Mohammed Pictionary.
Mohammed Pictionary and 9/11 Jenga. Listen, you're going to try and get us into trouble with that. All right, listen, thanks for the call. I'm not aware of either of those.
I quite like Scrabble, actually.
Yeah, Scrabble. Monopoly's quite good, yeah. I wrote a thing on my blog recently about Monopoly.
The joys of Monopoly.
Yeah, about...
Yeah, it's very aggressive when you played Monopoly in my household.
Yeah.
You get
competitive.
hotels thrown everywhere.
All right, should we have a James Bond fact before we take the next call?
Yeah. I remember from the book, they had a limp. Yeah, because he had a limp, and he used to get down about it.
Yeah, that's true.
And he felt a bit self-conscious.
He gets
about
down
it.
about his limp.
Apparently invented the spork as well.
The spork?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Half
he's
spoon, half fork.
He's very, very proud of his spork invention.
Yeah,
That's true. Kerrang, you're on the air. What's your name?
Katie.
Hello, Katie. Where are you calling from?
Bromsgrove.
Bromsgrove. And what have you called us to tell us?
About RE in schools.
About are they in schools?
RE.
RE in schools. Right, okay. How old are you, Katie?
Pardon?
How old are you, Katie?
I'm 19.
19, okay. What are you going to tell us about RE in schools?
Well, when I was little,
Yeah.
I used to go to a church school.
Right.
And in class, we were talking about God.
Yeah.
And I got sent out of the room because I said something offensive,
Uh-huh.
apparently.
Right.
But now,
Well, I've told you about saying the C word in class.
but now,
Yeah.
you're allowed to say whatever you want.
Right.
You're allowed to say whatever you want about God, whatever, in class.
But you can't call him one of those. You can't use the C word when you're talking about him. That's bad.
What?
Yeah, I'm just saying, you called him a C word, and that's bad.
That is bad.
What?
Listen, thanks for the call. All the best. So there you go. So that wraps that up.
The bass is playing away.
Yeah.
Dum, dum, dum.
Thanks for the bassist call as well. And there you go.
How random and ridiculous.
You just can't call God a C word.
The Night Before with Nick Margerrison.
Podcast.